extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law on March 29th, 2023. The meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. Okay. The first article on our warrant, our agenda tonight is to review and approve the minutes of the May 8th, 2024 meeting.
Madam Chair, before you do that, don't forget the announcement for John.
Oh, yeah. And John Rapper is with us tonight as a financial planning member and liaison to the building committee. He will not be a voting member. Okay. Back to the minutes of May 8th, 2024. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented, as distributed earlier today.
Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Any discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Okay, we need a roll call vote.
Call. Yeah.
John Rappa? Roll
Doesn't
call
vote.
vote.
I don't vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mitch Cohen,
Aye.
Dave Parenti,
Aye.
Diana Nicholas,
Aye.
and Tom Reardon. You're muted, Tom.
Sorry. Aye.
There he is.
Okay, and I'll say aye. Okay, the
Madam
next
Chair,
article. Yes.
before you move on to the second item, I just need to make a quick announcement who referenced the minutes. Effective tonight, the fire department administrative assistant will no longer be doing the minutes for this meeting. So if there's anybody, that was an operational issue, an operational decision I made. If anybody on the committee wishes to take the minutes, raise your hand. If not, I will be doing it. Seeing none, I will be doing them.
Sorry,
Makes
Chief.
it easier when you volunteer before you ask for volunteers.
I already have the template set up, so.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, discussion and vote to move bidding phase to after town meeting. Presenting this, Chief?
Yeah, so I'll speak to it to start, and then I'd like Tim to jump in, and if Janet has anything to add to it as well. As we're coming down the stretch with the design, we sat down with John, myself, Mitch, and the financial team with the town, Tim and Jason and Tim Alex, and I was there. Discuss where we are in the budget, and we found our numbers were a little bit closer than we'd like. In fact, we were a little bit short with the 3.4999999 million that was set aside at the town meeting. It wasn't quite 3. So we began brainstorming. Scott Sharpentier was there as well as to what we could do to ensure that we had enough funds to do everything that needed to be done, which included signing the geothermal change order, signing the change order for the sidewalks, and they were the two big ones, and then the estimator that we still have, the 18,000. So we sat down, we came up with some ideas, and Tim, if you want to take it from this point and explain how we got where we are.
Sure, and it might be good if I could share my screen. Let me see if I can do that. Kind of going to show the budget and where the numbers are. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the budget for the 3.499 and change. And we've, eventually we're going to be filling out all these other line items as we go through and develop and get to the next phase. But for right now, our budget is the 3.499. So none of it is really showing up on the first page. But the second page, you'll start to see the architect, the hazardous material. We have the project management, that's Collier's. And then you have some legal fees. And then on the third page, we have the site acquisition cost. And then we have just kind of what we're calling it a contingency, but it's really just the balance that's left over between what's been encumbered to date and the 3.999, the 3.4999. But what's interesting to want to point out is So in our budget, we lay it out with column A is where we're starting, our transfers in column B, and then in C is our approved budget with the transfers. But we're showing paid. So when I show it as paid or show it in here as paid, that means we've reviewed the invoice, we've stamped it, we've sent it off to the town for approval and processing. Then we have a total contract amount. So this is really what's been encumbered. So of the 3.99, the bottom of column D is what's been encumbered. The bottom of column E is what we're planning to spend. So as the chief just said, we know we have some additional design work on the sidewalk. We have some additional design work for geothermal now that that's been decided that we want to go with geothermal. We have a whole placeholder for $9,000 for the test pits that were done by Capital Environmental. We have $18,000 for the cost estimator. So we have at the bottom of column E would be the planned but not yet contracted. So we have our total anticipated cost. And then we show whether we're over or under. So if I go to the bottom of the budget, so page 3, again, 3.499, we've approved just over 2 million at 2.024 million. We have unpaid items that are still under contract, but unpaid of 1.363. So it brings us up to pretty close to that overall total budget of 3.499. It's 3.387. We have $158,000 of planned but not contracted. So that would put us over the 3.499 by $45,000. So we've built some things into here that we're planning, but we haven't necessarily contracted for. And by moving the bidding phase, so moving the fees of the bidding phase into after town meeting, that would lower our overall plan but not contracted and allow us by $62,000. So that would put us back under budget by about $15,000. And that way we'd be able to sign amendments 2 and 3, the sidewalk design and the geothermal design, and still be under our 3.499. We have a lot more detail that represents all the backup, all these line items. And so this is an example of the architect's fee. So we have it broken down by schematic design, design development, construction documents, bidding and procurement. So that was 62,750. So we're proposing to back that out of their existing or current contract. And a couple other things that we also want to back out too is there was $1,500 for, I think that was for police detail in case they needed to be out there when there was surveying going on. We broke out the geotech, not the geothermal, but the geotech and traffic as separate line items, but they're still within that original design amendment 1, which kind of listed all the different things that the design team was going to do. And so this was, we can see it off here to the right. This was, we were going to do, the amendment 1 included the hydrant flow test, the geotech engineering, geothermal review, not the full design, but just a basic, hey, is this a feasible option for us? Solar viability, traffic engineering.
Tim, could you do me a favor? Could you zoom in on that a little bit? It's a little hard to see.
Sure. How's that? Is that a little better?
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is what represented Amendment 1. So a couple of the items in here in Amendment 1, the communication antenna, we were talking originally about putting an antenna on the water tower at the top of the hill. That's not going to happen. That was something that the committee voted not to do. And so the design for that is money that we are going to do an amendment with the design team to take that out of the contract, essentially lowering that contract by $8,150. And then the FF&E design, something that we are going to need to do eventually, but not before town meeting and town vote. So we can move that to move it out and then we'd move it back in again, just kind of a scope swap. So we'd be doing those 2 items plus the 62,000 that was on the previous page for bidding, the bidding phase. So that would put us back below our 3.499 budget. And so it's really just shuffling some things around by about what needs to get done before the vote and what can be pushed or held till after. So we're adding back in the geothermal design, the Amendment 3, which is for the sidewalk design. So once we move that 62,000, we'd be about, again, $15,000 to $17,000 under the 3.4.
Thank you, Tim.
Under that amount. So I don't know if that makes sense for everybody.
Yeah, just to follow up, and I'll take questions. We can do questions in a minute, but I just want to confirm. So that would mean that we would need, again, talking with Jason today, 3 change orders, not including the change order for the 161 and the change order for the 95. We already have copies of those. We need one for the bidding, one for the FFE, and one for the antenna. That makes sense to you?
Well, we could do it all in one.
That's fine.
One amendment. And so Janet, if you guys could just put together an amendment to back those out, then we would do that for the bidding phase, the FF&E, and the antenna cost.
Yep. And as soon as I get how about the PD one? Do you need to back that out as well or not?
No, I think we're okay.
Okay.
We do have, we are going to have a couple other costs coming in. That this exhibit was developed on June 20th, and so since then we've gotten another invoice from Capital Environmental, but it was in the neighborhood of $1,800. So we'll process that. So we do have a little bit of money, a little bit of wiggle room to maneuver around. But really, this is our what we're expecting to expend going into town meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Don, if that's all right.
Yeah.
When we were last talking about this, both at our last building committee meeting and then at that meeting with staff that the chief was referring to, what I took from that would be it was possible to make the numbers work without changing the bidding date, but changing the bidding date would give us a lot more flexibility and room where we didn't have to shave each individual item. But there are, separate from that, non-financial advantages to changing the bidding date that I really liked hearing from you, Tim, and from Tim McInerney and so forth, that made me even more warm to that idea.
Yeah, and that's why we have the TA here, because he wanted to speak to that. He's available.
Yeah, but I just want to make sure
Yep.
from Tim Alex that it isn't that we are absolutely mandated to do this, that you found a way of finding the money. If we didn't want to change the date, we could still go ahead with everything. But changing the date gives us various advantages, including financial flexibility, correct?
Well, Mitch, I'm not sure if we do have the 60,
okay,
the 45. Really, what we're short here is the 45,000.
Yep.
If we would need to come up with that 45,000 in another way if we didn't take it from the bidding service or the design team services during the bidding phase. We'd have to take a look at that. We don't have a lot of line items to draw from.
Yeah. I remember there were questions about, did we really need the full legal budget? Did we, there were a couple of items that looked like they were, and I don't remember what they were from that staff level meeting.
Yeah, there may in fact have been, Mitch. I don't recall specifically, but typically if we have a single line item that makes it cleaner to pull from, typically that's the way we go.
Yep.
Okay.
Madam Chair, question.
Yes.
Tim, can you move to the upper right quadrant of this sheet? You had a line item for planning board. Maybe see another sheet. No. It was in the right side, upper right quadrant. May not be this sheet.
Let me just work. It probably was the design fees.
No, you had a specific box with it in it.
I think he is referring, Tim, to that little box you had showing the supplemental.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Janet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's encompassed in the 21,005 under the handle of planning board?
So that is the design team's fees for preparing for, attending, preparing any documentation for going to the planning board. And Janet, I don't know if that includes any other municipal boards or committees.
No, that was just the planning board. You can see the land distribution. I think that should be distributed, but that was the Concom. And so that's those meetings. We didn't even have Spetford things, unfortunately, called out for other ones, but those are all spent if that's what you're going for.
No, I just wanted to understand what's behind it, but
Yeah,
thanks,
understood.
Janet and Tim.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Any other
Chair?
questions?
I have a question.
Yeah,
So if we have a shortfall of 45,000, Tim, what are the strategies for making that up outside of taking it out of a line item, or do you increase the amount that you go to town meeting for?
Well, this is for what was been approved at town meeting for this study for this early phase. If essentially what we're doing is we're taking some of the scope of this phase as we originally constructed it and moving it to the next phase. And so therefore that next phase, essentially that cost is going to be moved into what we're going to be asking for approval at the next round. But really what the big driver of this is the $161,000 for geothermal design. So when that decision was made, that's really what when this became an issue.
Okay, so when you go to town meeting, we'll rely on the two estimates that are resolved as the structure of the town, the cost of the town for the new station.
Yeah, we talked about it too, and as the chief said, there's some, or I'm sorry, as Mitch had indicated, there are some benefits to doing that. When you're going out for bid, it costs a contractor a fair amount of money to review documents, put together a bid, and it takes time. So if it's not a guaranteed project and there's another guaranteed project out there where the money is guaranteed as long as they're within the budget, they might spend their time focused on that one versus one where you don't know if it's going to get passed at town meeting. So having something that's more of a, just making it more attractive to the bidders, it can make the difference, especially when labor is tight like it is right now.
Okay.
thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Do I hear a
Hang on, Madam Chair. I wanted Town Administrator Tim McInerney he had a couple of things he was going to mention. I didn't know if it was above what Tim.
Okay,
He is here if he wishes to do that.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Tim McInerney, Town Administrator. Tim, Alex covered it. You just want to put yourself in the best position possible to get as many competitive bids as possible. I've gone through, I don't know, high school, library, DPW garage. So we've always, well, it can go either way, right? Depending on the economy. But if you have money in hand, you seem to get more bidders. At least that's my experience, and I hope that'll be the case here. So that'd be my recommendation, to wait until you have town meeting approval and then the vote on the 7th for the November ballot question, and then bid out after that. Then you have everything in hand and you have an appropriation that those contractors will hopefully put together a better, more competitive bid, and you get more of them to choose from.
thank you.
You've already covered all that, but I just said it all again. I apologize.
No, I appreciate it. The more people hear it, the better.
Okay.
I'll add that's my experience too, in my involvement in other towns. It was exceptionally unusual to go out to bid before town meeting approval. Northborough was an unusual town. I thought it was a little weird to go out to bid first before town meeting. There's an advantage that you know an exact bid amount when you go to town meeting, but the overall goal is to spend as little as possible. And if you have town meeting approval to spend the money, more bidders are interested in you and they will bid more aggressively.
Any other comments or questions?
I have a question.
Mhm.
So pre-qualification is still going to take place before town meeting? Okay.
Well, we could certainly start it now. That was our intent, was to begin it this summer, and
Okay, great.
we do have a limit to how long we can hold them, but we're certainly within that window.
Okay,
Thank you.
anyone else?
Do we need to put together a committee for that right now, Tim, or can I wait till our next meeting on the 31st?
You can wait for that. What we'll
Okay.
do is we'll get going with the RFQ. So we'll put together a draft request for qualifications, which would go out to general contractors and certain sub trades. And what we can do is bring that to the next committee meeting with us, and then you can set up your meeting at that time. The meeting, it's pretty rigid as far as how it's set up by the statute and by DCAM. There's a representative from the OPM that's on the committee, a representative from the design team, and then 3 representatives from the district. So once we go through that, it doesn't go back to the building committee for approval. We can certainly inform this building committee of how that goes. But it's that committee that decides basically if these firms are submitting their sufficient information to pre-qualify them as bidders. And then once you lock in that list of bidders, you're locked in. That's who you have. You can't go outside that. So we want to try and be as inclusive as possible, but also at the same time, if there's anybody that has, some red flags or something that we're really worried about, to highlight that. You don't really end up not pre-qualifying most firms.
Great, Tim. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I had one other question for Tim. We've seen a slowing in the cost of wood frame materials because they geared up after COVID. Now that the market has dropped due to high interest rates and lack of demand, that the wood prices are dropping. Do you see anything comparable in commercial non-wood construction?
It depends upon the commodity. For instance, copper has really shot up. Asphalt products have also gone up. RLB is an estimator that we use, and they put out an index on a regular basis, and so we kind of rely on what they're telling us. I think more than anything, it just depends upon if we get a good mix of bidders, so that there's some competition there. That'll probably make the biggest difference, and the market's going to be what the market's going to be. It's some like I said, some sectors are going down, other sectors are going up. It's just hard to keep up with.
Right. Thanks.
Sure.
Can I ask one more question for Tim?
Yeah.
So if this is an appropriate time to do potential bidder outreach. Yes. Given that
Sure.
we're within a couple months. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
certainly we can outreach once we go into the bid phase, or then we want to really hold back and not give any make it look like we're communicating with some and not others. So yeah, at this point, this is really, we really want to drum up support for the project, and get as many bidders as we can. Like I said, the more bidders, the better. Some trades are really busy, and there's just not a lot of bidding or people out there bidding certain trades, and we find that we have to really start going through the list of who's DCAM certified, and just letting them know about the project, and kind of advertising it, and and really selling it, if you will, to get that support. Is to make sure we have in each of that filed subtrade categories.
Janet?
Yeah, I just want to mention one other thing that we have to talk about as a group, and certainly Tim, well, we've talked about this, is when we're going to go out to bid. You know, now that we're waiting until after town meeting, because we got to have the money in hand, now we're into November, December, rather than before that. And so we'll have to question whether we're going to get good bidding during the holidays. I just bring that up because it has affected us before, but I don't know if this time, if it'll be the same kind of issue. So anyhow, I just want to bring that up. I don't know, Diana. And Tom,
That's a
if you have
great
some thoughts.
point. Well,
Yeah.
my first question in response to your point is, does our estimate allow for an extended escalation date then?
Well, yeah, we can just assign it, we do have another, estimate. It'll be done in August, I think it is.
Okay.
July,
that's true.
July into August. So we'll have a number then, and if we want to, we're losing a couple months, 2 months maybe, in this process, potentially. So, we'll let our estimator know, and I'm sure, Tim will let their estimator know, and they'll come up with, agree with what is a number to carry for that, so, because they could be, instead of starting in December, they could be starting in February, March, so I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I think bidding, if the bid were to run through the holidays, I would recommend against that. It'd be better to even wait till after the holidays if we're not ready to complete the bid process prior to the holidays.
Right.
So
How much
that
time-
Thanksgiving to Christmas period is just, New Year's period.
Deadly.
How much time would we need from town meeting and ballot approval until we could go to the street with the project?
I think we could go pretty quickly, assuming that we have our, design in place. The mechanics of going to bid, really, we can have a lot of it done ahead of time. We just need to advertise, and you go through an advertised period of 3 to 4 weeks or so, and then before receiving your filed sub bidders, and then usually the general contractor bidders a couple weeks later.
Okay, so if we, doing the math in my head on the calendar, November 7th, I think, is the date that we would, 5th, 7th, whatever the date is, that we would get our answer from the electorate. And I think it sounds like there's time in there before we hit the holidays where we could go ahead and get this done. But I agree, we shouldn't overlap with the holidays.
You only can put it in the central register on Thursday, and you have to have the information in by Wednesday, and then you have to have it a weekend. That's that. So we won't be able to do that process until we finish town meeting and know the answer. And then Tim would probably be ready to put that ad in, for that next week or something, maybe, all goes well. So
Yeah, I mean, I would
So-
trust, Janet and Tim to know that schedule and just tell
Yeah.
us there's room, there's
Right.
time or there's not time. If it's not time,
yeah,
then we wait. And
it
if
sounds
there's
like
time,
we'd be
do it.
be pushing up against Thanksgiving at that point. So you're definitely pushing
Yeah.
into Christmas. So you may, it might, and this is all for discussion. I'm just bringing it up for people to think about. It would be early in January,
And it is something that's worth us talking about when we're
Yeah.
trying to contact the bidders who are interested in the project, and just kind of running through with them what our timeline looks like. And this is just letting them know about the project, kind of get their feedback on a December start versus a February start. We're really, if you think about what we're doing, we're digging in the ground and we're digging into the hillside. So
which is, could be
Tough.
frozen, could be snow covered, could be, we don't know
Yeah.
yet. Yeah. So
Okay,
it's hard to know. Okay.
do I hear any other questions? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Make a motion, we change the bid date on the project until after voter approval.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Okay, any questions?
Maybe could we amend that to mean that basically we're going to accept an amendment, I guess it would be amendment 4, Janet, from design team to credit the bidding phase scope of work, the FF&E phase scope of work, and the antenna design. That way, that gives us the funds, which can also, just tack on to the fact that we're changing the schedule.
I've never
Yeah.
written a letter like this, so I'm like already trying to figure out what the heck do you write,
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
amendment, credit amendment, and we're
A
taking some
credit
scope
amendment,
out.
okay.
Yeah, and then we're going to put it back, at least the FF&E and the bidding phase,
Yeah,
for after.
okay, I'll try to.
So Mitch,
try to
does your,
figure out- Yeah,
My motion includes that assumption.
okay, and Tom, your second
Yes.
includes that?
I
Okay.
just want to confirm, that's after the vote, or is that after town meeting?
I think it has to be after both town meeting and ballot.
Just as I'm typing it up, I want to make sure I put it right, because,
Yeah.
I don't take minutes normally, so.
Yeah, I think I said voter approval, so that's
did, you
inclusive
did.
of both. Yeah.
and,
Janet?
and then this still means that, we'll sign the contract on Friday or Monday so that we can get the geothermal working
Yeah,
on Monday. Yeah,
So
that's the,
I spoke with Jason. Jason said as soon as he gets your letter for the changes,
Okay.
then he will go ahead and sign the contract. So whether it's Friday or Monday, as soon as you get it to me, we'll get it done.
okay, got it.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Mitch,
Aye.
Chief,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Diana,
Aye.
and Don's aye. So the motion carries. Any other business that may legally come before the committee?
Madam Chair, question.
Yeah,
Has the committee gotten any closer for a date for the committee to present to the appropriations and financial planning committees?
Chief, did we have a date?
Yeah. Hang on, I'm typing. I'm not that good. Yeah, so what I had recommended to John was that we waited until after the select board meeting that's going to be happening on the 15th. That's correct.
Correct. Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna bring that up.
And then we could set the date to go present to them at that point in time. Does that make
Okay.
sense, John?
Yes, and just to let you know, I've talked to Scott Rogers, and the both of us are of the accord that you can present to both committees. It's an economy of scale.
Excellent.
Just need a big enough room, obviously.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll coordinate with Tim and Janet and Amy and all them to find a good date sometime end of July, August, whenever after we had this meeting that everyone can get it done.
Okay. Anything else?
Don,
Mitch.
I wanted to follow up on what the chief was talking about. So the July 15th select board meeting is scheduled when this group will present this project to the select board. The agenda hasn't been published yet. Will be, sometime next week and in proper time for the meeting. And the select board will need to vote on that night on the ballot question. The state needs significant advance notice when we're putting a ballot question on the same ballot as a statewide election, which the November ballot will be. So technically we have until the very, very beginning of August. We don't want to rush up against that deadline because who knows what paperwork the state will surprise us and require. So we've scheduled that for July 15th. There will be most likely 3 select board votes on 3 successive meetings relative to the project. So July 15th is when we vote to put it on the ballot. And we also we sort of announced that we will have a special town meeting. I think it's October 7th is the date we've been talking about. Then we may or may not put the actual article on the warrant on July 15th, or we may hold that to the August meeting. And then at the September select board meeting, we execute the warrant and that finalizes the number. some of my hope is that will give us the time to get in the cost estimates that we expect to get somewhere in the middle of August, so that the warrant article can contain the latest cost estimate, or can include the latest cost estimate plus the other costs for the project by the time it gets executed in September. So you will probably hear the select board talking about this project at those 3 meetings. The most consequential one coming up is, of course, the vote to create the ballot question that requires a supermajority vote of the select board. So 4 of 5 members need to vote in the affirmative, and then the town meeting is just the simple 3-member majority.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, Madam Chair, question for Mitch.
Sure.
I understand the dates and you want to back into it and the urgency.
Yeah.
But is there a rationale why you would review and vote on this with this committee without hearing from appropriations and financial planning first?
So typically a warrant is created, and then appropriations and financial planning does the recommendations to town meeting beforehand, before the town meeting, but after the warrant is created. So July 15th is when we officially say, hey, we're doing this. This is real. Then that is your trigger to go ahead and have your meeting to start down the process of making the town meeting recommendation. Your job is to recommend to the body of town meeting, not specifically to the select board. Obviously, we would be very happy to hear any thoughts you have on the process. July 15th, we can't move too much due to the state's requirements, but we will not be finalizing the town meeting warrant and article until most likely the first or second week of September, when we execute that warrant. So we have the flexibility of amending that dollar amount through then, and then the only subsequent amendments that could take place are town meeting. So I think that gives you some time with your boards to walk through the process in advance of then, if you want to.
Good, thank you.
Sure. Or you may opt to wait until the article is 100% final, and then do your work. That's up to you.
Scott and I will discuss. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anything else? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion's been made.
Oh,
yeah.
hang on, Janet.
I just have one quick question. I know, Tom, and this should be easy, but Tom, you had asked us to look at some elevation, that front elevation. And the reason I'm even bringing this up before the 31st meeting is because we're trying to do the TEDI, which is the new energy modeling thing, and we need every single window because we're not, as all cases, it's very hard to pass. So can I share for just a second? It's just removing to Windows options. So we wanted to show you that. Would that be possible?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, now how do I share on this one? Okay, hold on. There you go. See. I hope you can see what I'm looking at.
Yep.
So if you remember, the window looked like this, and Tom, you asked if we could look at adjust that, and so we looked at many, and we all decided in our grouping that this one would be the best of the grouping. It still maintains the lining up, the lining up of the 2 choices we want, and still great. So we have a variety of 4 windows in places, 2 windows, 5 windows, all through the building. So we were hoping you would approve that, so that we can go forward. We have columns that we're doing structure. We're doing all kind of other things behind the scene, which you can't even see. But that is the preferred option. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, please. Comment? Tom, are you?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I like the fact that you replicated the single windows flanking the bank of 5.
Okay.
Which picks up what you have in other parts of the building.
Okay,
And you maintain the larger scale of the 5 to signify that's a larger space and different
Okay.
function. So, yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
okay. Anyone else?
Anyone else?
Okay. I'm,
Jane, you don't need
that's it.
that, do you?
Pardon me?
I don't think we need a vote for that.
No, I don't think so. This is just a detail, and there's a
Yep.
million details that we'll be putting before you potentially, to comment
agree.
on here and there. It's just one that Tom specifically asked about at last meeting.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
and I'm done. Good night.
I had a motion to adjourn, but I didn't have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Mitch,
Aye.
Chief,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Diana,
Aye.
and Dawn, aye. So we'll see everybody on the 15th.
Great.
I'll be there. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thanks,
Enjoy
everybody.
the 4th.
Have a safe 4th, folks.
Hey,
Bye.
Tim,
Take
thank you
care.
for coming in.
Have a
I know
nice
you're on
holiday.
vacation. I appreciate it, Tim.
Sure.